Welcome back to Fox 5 at 8:30, just about 8:30 on this Thursday morning as we take a look at, there's a hometown for many people. Sunshine all around this morning, but cold temperatures just now hitting 40 degrees in Washington. But most of the places you see in those live pictures are down into the mid-30s at this hour. Weather and traffic coming up at 8:35. First up, the holidays next week kick off shopping season, and D.C. police are ready to help curb the crime. I want to talk about that and some other things with D.C. Police Chief Robert Contee joining us to talk all about that and much more. Good morning, Chief. Good to talk to you once again.
Good morning, Steve. Great to be here.
Yeah, I do want to talk holiday safety and holiday help and all that. I want to get to a couple stories of the day. First of all, one of the big stories that came out in the last week, obviously, was a potential change or the change to the crime code in D.C. And I know you were quite outspoken about that. Now that you've had a couple of days to think about that, what is your take on it? What do you feel are some of the ways that this could impact D.C. residents the most?
Well, Steve, obviously I've been very vocal about this. The Metropolitan Police Department will enforce whatever the outcomes are, but I think it's very important for residents to understand really what the impacts of these changes, what they will be with respect to some of the crimes where the penalties have been changed, in essence reduced from where they are currently. And when we're talking about some of the crimes that we've seen in our city, especially those that directly impact people, I just really firmly believe in my heart of hearts that talking about reduced penalties, that's a non-starter for me. So obviously we'll enforce what we need to enforce. That does not change. But in terms of what the outcome will look like, those things could be different down the line in the space of accountability.
You have a couple of things when it comes to dealing with crimes or trying to reduce crimes from the code standpoint. One, obviously having penalties in place that may act as a deterrent, and two, dealing with the court system to apply those punishments to those who have been found guilty of breaking the law. When it comes to these changes, though, what are your biggest concerns? Are you concerned that they won't be a deterrent if it's not a strong enough potential penalty, or that it might not act as a penalty in the courts, that system might be harder to deal with, that partnership?
So there are a lot of things involved here. I mean, just recently, the Court of Appeals, as well as the D.C. Superior Court, they expressed very much a lot of heartburn about this issue and some of the changes, all of the things that are being changed just like all at one time. And we're talking about like within the next, 2 years, essentially, these major changes will have to occur. Attorneys and police officers and judges and all these people have to be retrained in the entire criminal code. So we're talking about the training, we're talking about the application, all of these things that have to happen. And it just, with so many people sounding the alarm bells, the judges, the police, the mayor, et cetera, the prosecutors in this case as well, ringing alarm bells, I think that should cause us a little bit of pause.
Switching gears right now, juvenile crime has been a hot button issue, obviously, in the city, and there are layers to it, and there are obviously, you can talk about the lower level crimes, and in those cases, you hope you can get help to those juveniles before it's too late. But the violent crime is really what grabs the headlines and what we hear most from people in D.C. as far as they're concerned. Chief, is it just a situation right now as we see more 13, 14-year-old gun crime, either those accused or the victims of? Is it turf wars? Is it gangs? Is it organized activity? Is it individuals going rogue? What is happening out there in the streets of D.C.?
It's more individuals. I mean, you see young people that are unable to resolve conflict. In the cases where it is involving young people, someone drops a video on YouTube that's disrespectful to somebody else or another community, and what would have 20 years ago been a fist fight now results in someone being shot, and that is very unfortunate. While we're in a space right now where we are experiencing decreases in crime, actually decreases in crime pre-pandemic levels, it's very disturbing to see that our young people are showing up in more violent crimes. I just did a recent analysis looking at the young people who have been involved in violent crimes, in violent crimes over the course of the last year. And we're talking about 207 young people involved in violent crimes, and 97 of those, their first crime, their first introduction into the criminal justice system were for violent crimes. And that is obviously very disturbing to me, and we're doing everything that we can can on the law enforcement side to try to help curb that. You know, we want to make sure that there's accountability, but we also want to create opportunities for the young people in our city.
Interesting statistics there, and by your numbers, they're showing that almost half of those being introduced into the world of crime, choosing violent crime as their first offense. Chief, thanks for pointing that out to us. All right, let's switch gears completely right now. The holidays are essentially here right now. I know that you're doing a couple of things. You're trying to keep the streets as safe as possible throughout the holiday season for D.C. residents, and you're also taking the opportunity to try to help people out directly. You want to talk about that for a minute?
Yeah, absolutely, Steve. Not only are we putting all of our resources in terms of our police recruits who are in the academy out on the streets for safer D.C., putting our police cadets out on the street, but we're also touching families. Our goal is to touch over 100 families with food and turkeys and so forth over the holidays because, again, you know, people need opportunity. There are people in communities who are hurting, and we want to be part of the solution and not part of the problem. So our effort as our community outreach coordinators all across MPD are reaching out to communities to really touch families in a way that also fill their stomachs over the holidays.
All right, Chief, and the last thing for you, and I think that's some good news for folks through the holiday season. I know we've talked about recruiting efforts. You were trying to reach people when they were in town for the Marine Corps Marathon. You do so when there's other big events in town. Are you still looking for recruits? Have you been getting some through the recent campaigns?
We are getting some, but we're always looking for more. It's a very competitive market right now in law enforcement, and to be quite honest with you, I mean, there are people who, you know, the level of interest that we saw 10, 15 years ago, we're not seeing that level of interest. So we're doing everything that we possibly can, recruiting in spaces and places where we normally would not, to see if we can get interested people into the professional law enforcement. I believe that this is one of the noble professions where you are able to serve communities, so we're looking for good men and women, D.C. residents, non-D.C. residents, who want to come to the nation's capital and be the best police officers that they can be.
All right, and if you're looking for that opportunity, reach out to the D.C. Police Department. Chief, thanks very much. Have a great Thanksgiving. Look forward to catching up with you again soon.
Thank you. You too, Steve. Take care.